capabilities in preparation.
Game changer for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're going to call this meeting of the Board of Supervisors to order. Would you please join us for an invocation by Pastor Bill Franzen and the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand.
Good morning, Supervisors. Heavenly Father, we come before you this morning just thanking you for the privilege that we have to serve our county. And Father, I just pray for a special blessing upon the supervisors as they do the job, Lord, that they're elected to do. Lord, just give them a special knowledge and be able to take care of the business. Lord, I just pray that each person that has an option to speak before the board this morning, Lord, that you'll just bless them, things go in an orderly manner. And we thank you for this blessing in the name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The Board of Supervisors may by motion recess into executive session to receive legal advice from the board's attorneys on any item contained in this agenda pursuant to ARS 38-431.03 A3, 4, and 7. Motion and action to call for an executive session to be held February 6th, 2023 at 9 a.m. for discussion and consultation with legal counsel in accordance with ARS 38-431.03 A3, 4, and 7 to discuss items noticed on the agenda with an asterisk.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
You've all heard that motion in a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes appear to have it. Do have it so ordered. Official business. Discussion of pending or contemplated litigation claims and demands. Attorney Esplin?
Nothing to report today. Thank you.
Thank you. Committee and/or legislative reports. Supervisor Bishop.
This past 2 weeks, I attended the Arizona Criminal Justice Commission meeting, and also I sat in and listened to the LPC where Supervisor Angus is our representative. That's it.
Thank you. Supervisor Angus.
Thank you. I attended the opening session at the Arizona Legislature and heard our new Governor Hobbs give the state of the state. And I also attended the LPC meeting, as Supervisor Bishop said, and the bills are now coming forward. If there's anything I think you guys should be made aware of, I will let you know, but they're going to come fast and furiously. Thank you.
Supervisor Gould.
Nothing today, Mr. Chairman.
Supervisor Johnson. Is Supervisor Johnson joining us on the call? I'll go ahead and provide an update. These are water-related updates. Last week, the Arizona Governor's Office, they ordered the unsealing of a report called the Lower Hassayampa Sub-Basin Report. which showed that Central Arizona's West Valley is short of its 100-year water supply requirement under the law, under an active management area. That area, which includes Buckeye, Levine, and other West Valley cities, is projected to have a total unmet water demand of 4.4 million acre feet over a 100-year period. And the Department of Water Resources can no longer approve the development of subdivisions reliant on groundwater in that area. Those West Valley cities will no doubt be looking for other water supplies, and I think that is just point in case why the lawsuit challenging the fourth priority transfer off the river is so important right now. The governor's office also issued Executive Order number 4 for the purpose of modernizing Arizona's 1980 Groundwater Management Act. Related to that, our own Legislative District 5 Representative Leo Biasucci, he will be sponsoring 2 water-related bills this session. The first is related to implementing a rural groundwater management framework outside of the active management areas. This is nothing new. When we had Representative Cobb, she introduced legislation almost every single year she was in the legislature. It was called rural management areas. I don't believe it's going to be called rural management areas, and there's going to be a few other changes as well. We'll wait for that bill to drop to give everybody the details of that. The second bill is related to our continued advocacy here in Mojave County toward a prohibition on subsequent fourth priority Colorado River water transfers to Central Arizona. At the same time that the entire Colorado River system continues to crash. So we'll continue to advocate strongly. Our partnerships throughout Arizona on both of those issues continue to get stronger. And hopefully we'll see some success this session. I'll call again for Supervisor Johnson. Is he on the call?
They're working on it.
Okay. County Manager's report. Manager Alters.
Good morning, Chairman and board members. I have 2 items this morning. First one, as you know, Mojave County owns approximately 15 acres of farmland in Mojave Valley and within the Mojave Valley Irrigation and Drainage District, also known as MVIDD. This farmland has been actively farmed by 4B Farms under a lease with Mojave County. Recently, 4B Farms notified the board of its intent to terminate the lease, and the board approved the termination during the last board meeting, which was January 6, 2023. Going forward, I believe the board has multiple options. The first one is to procure and issue a new lease to farm this land. Second, to participate in the Colorado River Intentional Conservation Program, the ICS. There's a program currently offered by the U.S. Bureau of Reclamation where the land is deliberately fallowed, not farmed or cultivated, and the county would be reimbursed for the water conservation. This is a program that many farmers are considering. And the third would be to consider designating and selling this farmland water allocation for domestic and municipal use, given that practically all the MVIDD municipal and domestic designated water has already been allocated. And fourth would be to do nothing, but that would risk losing the water allocation that comes with this land if it goes for 2 years in an inactive and fallow farmland. So since the board approved the lease January 6th, 2 weeks ago, since the board approved the lease termination 2 weeks ago, we have been working and coordinating with the MVIDD board to explore some of these options in a more in-depth way. We will present the findings to you going forward, perhaps even some recommendations. It's Primary review indicates that the county parcel would qualify for this conservation program. Whether that's something the board would wish to do or not remains open for discussion, but we will bring you that information in the near future. Just wanted to make you aware of it. The other item, really quick, is related to the opioid settlement. We were just informed that 5 additional pharmaceutical companies have settled under this program. Those are Teva, Allergan, CVS, Walgreens, and Walmart for a total of $20 billion nationally. We have not received a breakdown. This would be for all participating states, so we have now received information regarding a breakdown of what the state of Arizona would be receiving and subsequently Mojave County. We will update you once that information becomes available. However, it is highly likely that we will receive more than we anticipated originally and shared with you. So just wanted to make you aware of it. As that information becomes available, we'll come to you to approve receipt of and programming, but this information was just received Friday of last week. Thank you.
Thank you, Manager Elders. Call to the public. We'll start out with Kenny Works.
Good morning, Kenny Works, Yucca, Arizona. I'm here to speak about fraud. Where there is an opportunity for fraud, there shall be fraud. That's what I learned in 30 years working in the casinos. The object is to prevent the opportunities. That's the reason the procedures are set up in the casinos the way they are. Here's a pair of trousers that was issued to me. All the pockets are sewed shut. I got rid of an opportunity for fraud right there. The state of Delaware Supreme Court ruling makes it harder to unlawfully tamper with an election. Judicial Watch is gratified the court agreed with our amicus brief and acted swiftly to strike down these unconstitutional election laws that created increased opportunities for fraud in future elections. They went to the Delaware Constitution. The Delaware Constitution set up procedures to prevent such fraud. However, political parties may now and then answer popular ends, they are likely in the course of time and things to become potent engines by which cunning, ambitious, and unprincipled men will be enabled to subvert the power of the people and to usurp for themselves the reins of government, destroying afterwards the very engines which had lifted them to unjust dominion. George Washington, 1732 to 1799. Maricopa County, Clint Hickman, one of the supervisors in Maricopa County, I'm sick of coddling and catering to Mojave County all the time. We are supposed to just smooth our hair, listen to it, and deal with it. It's not going to happen anymore, not with this guy. Hickman said, I'm not going to keep putting up with this. It's either they take their ball and go home or do crazy exemplative in their own boundaries, or we take our ball and work on our issues and not really care what Mojave County has to say. Well, this speaks of culture. They want to change the entire culture of Arizona. It obviously indicates to me they no longer want to be part of Arizona. San Bernardino County wants out of California, we'll just switch. We'll take San Bernardino County, and California can have Maricopa County, and they'll have matching cultures. I think that then that would give us the opportunity to make Needles our new state capital. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Wayne Hollins.
Morning, Chairman and Supervisors. First of all, I live in Golden Valley, just in case. All right, first thing I'd like to cover is the Golden Valley cactus cleaner stats. Last year, 2022, we cleaned up 58,570 pounds of trash, no boats, 866 tires that weighed approximately 20,800 pounds. Since 2015, we've cleaned up over 727,000 pounds of trash and debris. That includes 42 boats. Plus, we've cleaned up 19,196 tires for over 515,000 pounds, which gives us a total since we started our little group there of 1,242,000 plus pounds. So I'm hoping that our lower statistics, because we're normally up about 100,000 pounds or so every year, I hope it's because there was less trash out there to find as opposed to us being out there less. But I have been out there several times recently driving around, and it's been hard to find a big enough pile of trash that was worth stopping for, mostly roadside litter and stuff like that. They're still dumping, and we're cleaning it up as we find them and report it to us, but hopefully we made some progress there. So, and then back to my next favorite subject is the water. The last meeting, we was going to have more information gathered for recharging the aquifer. And apparently a different group of people. We have a water sustainability task force that you would think that would be part of their mission, was to identify those projects and have a timeline for getting them done and figuring out how they're going to pay for them, as opposed to having a whole new group of people gathering that information to put out again. Like the thing I've seen on Facebook, we're going to continue to have meetings until we can figure out why we don't get anything done. The thing is simple. You go up into the high in the watershed as you can, slow the water down, do what we're doing already down here, and you'll recharge the watershed. There's a lot of water up there that's just running off and down and wherever it's going instead of into the ground. So you actually have to do something rather than have a meeting. So hopefully, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Janice Geller. Gordon Geller, you're on deck.
Hello, Board of Supervisors. My name is Janice Geller, and I live north of the Grand Canyon. I put in a petition for Lavoy-Finicum Road to be paved. It's only 1 mile, and if you continued through, it would take you to the highway, which would be another 3 miles. But there are not people living beyond those 3 miles. There are so many people. I took about 4 hours one day and got 57 signatures from people, and a lot of people weren't home. This road is used, it's used by the bus. They refuse to come down the road when we've had bad weather, rain, snow that's melted. the water runs from the mountains and comes across the middle, and it stays wet for a long period of time. I submitted this petition in September. They thought it would be ready for you guys to vote on it today, but it isn't. Public Works is still working on it. But I'm talking to you because I need to have you okay this so we can at least, excuse me, have a mile for the people to travel on, for home health to come, for FedEx to come. And if people want to go the other distance, there isn't as much traffic to get to the highway. There isn't as much traffic, so the roads don't have the ruts in. We need culverts. We need culverts put in where that water runs through, and we need it paved. We need some hard surface on it. It's just a mess, and just asking that if it comes up next week, that you vote for it, please. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Gordon Geller?
We live, my wife and I, Janice and I, my name's Gordon Guller, and glad to have the opportunity to speak to you supervisors and reiterate what she did mention. We live in what's considered a TIC, a tenants in common. There's 24 homes. About 11 of those signed the petition. The other 46 or so people our area all the way around us that is developing at a fantastic rate. We never anticipated it would grow like it did. And many of these people are either directly on the Lavoie-Finicum Road and the tributaries, or off Liberty Lane, which is 3200 south, that goes some distance in and to the west of us, quite a distance, a couple miles. And as she had mentioned, the bus doesn't travel down the road. I watched it last year in weather like we've had recently, and the jostling of the bus was such that it's a hazard to the children. I have a four-wheel drive pickup, and it doesn't bounce as much as that bus did, and those children do not have safety belts on. And so it's a hazard to the children, and that's the reason the bus driver sits up on Cane Beds Road, and the parents have to drive the rough road to try and get their children to school. Most of the people in our immediate area are seniors, like myself, that have, as Jan had mentioned, the home care or have to get to physical fitness or their doctor's appointments. I have as many as 4 or 5 appointments a week at times, and it is very difficult to get out and get to the doctor. The petition was submitted, and we were fairly well assured over the phone that it would be presented to you folks today. I'm sorry that it wasn't ready so that you would have an opportunity to review it. 2 years ago, that road was covered with some type of a mined soil or so forth, and it kind of hardened on the surface. That was fine, except for the areas that Jan had mentioned that the water runs across. There's 2 major ones. There's 3 or 4 all told, but one major one is well over 100 feet wide when the water runs through in heavy snow melt or rain. And those ditches, it's almost impossible for even a four-wheel drive to get through. It's a terrible drive. And so, again, I sincerely ask that the Board of Supervisors consider. When she mentioned the highway, that's 389 to the south of us. It's 3 miles up to this mile that is particularly well-traveled. That goes up to Cane Beds, and of course it goes on to Coral Pink Sand Dunes, which has quite a bit of travel to it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Richard Knowles.
Good morning,
hear me all right?
Yes.
My name is Richard Knowles. I met my home and my business and my family in Yucca, Arizona. Lived there for 20 years or thereabouts. We have some issues out there. In the last 10 days, we've had 5 burglaries. 5. It has got to the point where you can't leave anything unlocked. You got to watch everything. It's to the point of dangerous. We have had undesirables, let's call them, go into the area. Everything from the drug dealers, thieves, and recent past, even murderers hiding out in Yucca because they know they can. The situation is we don't have any law enforcement presence. The sheriff's office says they don't have staff to do it. Well, I understand that, but that don't help our problem. It's just continually gotten worse. These people are, although not very smart, showing by the way that what they do when they steal things, they're very organized. It's a group of people. It's a gang. They are very good at sharing intel with each other. They know who's home. They know who has cameras. They know who doesn't. But we can't seem to do anything about them. We know who they are. We know exactly who they are. I could name names, but I'm not going to do it here because it's probably not a good idea. But I'm looking for some help. I don't even know what help, but we need something. They stole a gun from the burglary at my son and I's place. They stole multiple firearms from another residence out there of what I understand is assault weapons. So now these people are armed. I mean, I'm afraid to let my daughter go to her car in the morning to go to school. We keep her car inside the fenced lot at the house now, and I walk her to her car and make sure she gets to the highway before I let her go. This is a situation that's not acceptable. I don't know if there's a gang task force. I don't know if there's some funds available you can help the sheriff's office with. Is there something that the Board of Supervisors can offer us as a community for something? I don't even know what. I mean, it's to the point where we're going to have to self-police, and that's not a good situation for anyone. It hasn't been in the past when I was involved in it, and it's not going to be in the future. So I'm asking for some input, some help, some resources, some help for the sheriff's office. The guys that come out, they do their best. But I mean, we followed tracks of one of them the other day to an abandoned house where we knew they probably were, but he couldn't get back up, so he couldn't go in. We could have possibly caught them red-handed, caught them with our property, but we didn't because we didn't have the resources. They tell me that the sheriff's office officers tell me that it doesn't even do any good to arrest them because we can't put them in jail now because of COVID. So anyway, thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
Chairman Lingenfelter,
Supervisor Angus.
I'd like to tell Mr. Knowles, that that's the sheriff sitting right back there, and maybe you can speak with him. Thank you.
Thank you. Consent agenda. Supervisor Bishop, anything to pull?
Nothing.
Supervisor Angus.
26.
Supervisor Gould.
None this morning.
Supervisor Johnson. Looking for a motion to approve consent minus item 26.
So moved.
Heard that motion and second. All in favor, please say aye.
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 All opposed? As appear to have it, do have it so ordered. Item 26.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to hear from the sheriff to find out. We've talked about this in the past, and seeing that's going to happen, I'd like to know the specifics.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, county manager, county attorney, and our lovely clerk of the board. First, let me start by saying Happy New Year. I wish you all a happy and healthy New Year. This is a very unique and what I consider a very rewarding transfer of property. So I'm going to give you the background on this. As sheriff, I have affiliates across the state, across the country, fellow sheriffs, and we communicate routinely. I got a call last year from the sheriff of Osage County in Missouri. He requested that I assist him by picking up some equipment in San Diego and ultimately working on transferring it back to Missouri. This is something we accommodated him with at zero cost to the taxpayers. We were able to get quite a few volunteers to help out, so I was excited to do so. Well, it turns out the sheriff had a vehicle that he was willing to give us that he had obtained through the law enforcement support program through the military. This vehicle is ideal for our need. This is a search and rescue vehicle. I don't know if you were able to see the photo. By design, it fits the terrain that we live and work in. This has a tremendous platform. It's elevated. I believe this thing will pretty much go anywhere, excuse me. So we're simply coming before the board to add it to our fleet with the understanding that this will be assigned to our search and rescue division, and that military brown, or whatever you want to call it, will probably be painted orange in the near future. Questions?
Supervisor Angus?
No, but thank you. Maybe a month ago, you were up here asking for funds for this type of vehicle, and now it's kind of magically appeared, so it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, Supervisor Angus Sankey, it wasn't this type of vehicle. We're still searching out funding for a command post. This is a great off-road vehicle, and the price was right, so we were very happy to accept this. And a thanks, if he's watching, to Sheriff Bonham of Osage County. He'll actually be out later this month. He is not only a sheriff, he's a law enforcement chaplain, and he is going to be working with our chaplains in the area to help them with law enforcement related incidents, so it's a good thing. Thank you.
Supervisor Gould.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Sheriff, I looked at the price tag on this vehicle, the outrageous price that the federal government paid for this thing, in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. Is this thing so unique that it's going to be expensive to maintain?
Supervisor Gould, that's a great question. No, this has got a stock engine that can be worked on. It's a rather large engine, but I'm being told that parts are readily available, and we can obtain them also through the military program, so right down to the tires.
Sounds good. So it's not, they just overpaid. It's not something that they dreamt up that was space shuttle-like, apparently.
Supervisor Gould, correct.
Thank you, Sheriff.
Any other questions for Sheriff Schuster? If not, what's the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve item 26.
Second.
For that motion and second, all in favor, please say aye.
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 All opposed? Ayes appear to have it. Do have it so ordered. Move to the regular agenda. Item number 35. Director Cunningham.
Good morning, Chair and Supervisors. This item is a change to Personnel Policies 1.3. It's our probationary period. As we go along and we use our personnel policies, sometimes issues come up with these policies. In this particular case, we had our 911 operators, the PBX, or not the PBX, the public safety operators were in the 6-month probationary period and the 1-year probationary period. So this corrects that. And we also took out quite a bit of duplicate language where the sheriff's probationary period was separate when it didn't need to be, because it was incorporated in with the rest of the probationary periods. We did take out the demotion probationary period, because if we take out the probationary period for demotions, it allows due process. We just can't say, okay, we demote you, and then next week we're going to fire you with no recourse. They have no recourse. So our current policy says we may use, so we took that piece out just so they can follow the normal due process like any other termination or discipline. And then the final change that was made was the 1-year probationary employees, which are law enforcement officers, the race officers, the park rangers. If they decide to leave county employment, they have to wait 1 year to get a PTO cash out, where the rest of the classified employees in the county only have to wait 6 months. This would allow those law enforcement officers to have the same rules, basically, as the other classified employees in the county. It does not change the probationary period. It just changes when they can get the PTO cash out. So those are basically the changes to this policy.
Questions from the board? Pleasure of the board.
Motion to approve.
Second.
You've heard that motion and second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes appear to have it, do have it, so ordered. Thank you, Director Cunningham. Item 36, Byron Stewart, Director of Risk Management. Morning, Byron.
Morning, Chairman Lingenfelter and Supervisors. This is essentially just a housekeeping type of change we need to make with regard to public safety supplemental benefits for our public safety employees. The original language in the policies and procedures was actually not in compliance with state statute. It indicated that training and similar activities would not be covered under the benefits plan, which in fact they are. So we've taken that language out and we've inserted kind of a broad definition that says the injury to the public safety employee must have occurred while the public safety employee was on duty and to the extent that the public safety employee cannot perform the functions of the position. That will put us in compliance with statute.
Thank you. Questions from the board? Looking for a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
You've heard that motion and second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes appear to have it, do have it, so ordered. Item number 37, we have one individual that's signed to speak. Leah Stagg. Do you want to approach the podium? Good morning.
Good morning. I'm here to answer any questions you have. I'm the curator at the museum. And first of all, I want to say that we are beyond excited. As a historian, well, I'm just thrilled. And we are very excited about the opportunity to turn the historic jail back into some place that people in the community would like to visit and to compile the history of it. So.
Great, thank you. If we have questions from the board, we'll call you up at a later time. Manager Elters?
Good morning, Chairman and board members. Again, this item was presented to you back in November of last year, and it was continued to allow the Historical Society to review documents provided by the county related to this lease and execute them. So I'm going to turn this over to Attorney Esplin, who will tell us where that process is at and make recommendation to you.
Good morning, Supervisors. Just a little bit more background about the historic jail. The historic courthouse and the historic jail and courthouse were built in Kingman in 1909. It's a two-story reinforced concrete structure that housed inmates until the 1960s. Since that time, there was a period where they were storing items, but then really it's been vacant for many years now. The jail is on the National Register of Historical Places, as is the courthouse. On February 19th, 2019, the Board of Supervisors voted to try to come up with some idea to use it. There was 5 different proposals that Public Works came back with, and unfortunately there were no takers on it. There was no bidders. They set out a request for information, I believe or a request for proposals. I can't remember the exact procurement term, but there was nobody that came back. I mean, there was options of trying to make it into a coffee house or even to remove it, take it somewhere else, to renovate it, you name it. There was no takers or anything. And so the Historical Society has come forward and has offered to try to take it and offer it to the public. Like Ms. Stagg explained, they would offer it for public tours and also for educational purposes. Schools could come over and see it, field trips and things like that. Currently, the Historical Society operates the Powerhouse, the Benelli House, and the museum just around the corner from here. Those are all buildings that are owned by the city, but the Historical Society operates them. And they've been doing that for many years now. And the idea is that this would be kind of the fourth gem in that crown, so to speak, or fourth jewel in that crown, where the public could have tours of each one of those. And also in addition to that, just go down the road and go over to the historical jail and check it out. It's really a fascinating place. If you've ever seen pictures and things, it's very interesting. This is a lease for a 15-year period with the automatic renewal of another 15 years. That was an important thing for the Historical Society, as they wanted a long period of time for grant purposes and construction purposes. It will cost nothing to Mojave County. Any construction or anything like that will be on the Historical Society. The Historical Society would renovate it and get it up to speed. Of course, we would have to approve anything before we would open it to the public and allow the public to see anything. The first step in this is to do a Brownsfield grant, because there's lead in the paint and there's other environmental hazards. And I believe the board has already approved that grant application with the state. We've done those before with, we did it with the courthouse, and we've did it with a few other buildings. I think two buildings we've done that with. And so that's anticipated that we would do the same here, that we would first abate any kind of environmental nuisances through the Brownsfield grant. And then after that, they would work towards construction of renovating it and then open it up to the public for tours.
Questions from the board? Supervisor Bishop?
I don't have any questions, but I am elated that this is finally coming forward and it's going to get done. My husband was one of the last deputy sheriffs to actually book somebody into this jail. And he also lived in the house right next door to it with his grandparents when he was going to elementary school, since he actually lived on a ranch. So he stayed with his grandparents in his house. And the stories with the kids walking by and talking to the prisoners, going forward all the way up to, his passing, the stories are just amazing. So I hope the Historical Society will take photographs of all of the amazing artwork that's inside, especially on the second floor, autographs from inmates, and some of the pictures might be R-rated, but I think to restore that with photographs would be interesting. So I will make a motion that we approve, and I'm very excited about it. Thank you.
Second.
For that motion, a second. Is there any other discussion? I want to say thank you to the Mojave County Historical Society for taking this on. This building is quite the historical treasure in my mind, and I've had several past conversations with the gentleman that is in Kingman. His name's Jim Hinckley, an author. We've had discussions on this very subject, that this would be turned into something that could be shared with the public to share part of our history. So I just want to thank you for taking this on. You've heard that motion in second. All in favor, please say aye. 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 All in favor or all opposed? Motion carries. I just appear to have it, do have it so ordered. Item 38, Manager Elders.
Mr. Chairman and board members, thank you. This proposal has been discussed. I hope it's not new to any of you. It has been discussed with the LPC Legislative Policy Committee, that is, as well as the CSA Executive Board. It is based on a concept of creating the National Center for Public Lands Counties. It would be sponsored by NACO and the Western Interstate Region, WIR, Board of Directors. It's based on the understanding that it would be voluntary participation by counties with voluntary pledges of 1% of general fund, which is equivalent to 1% of what the counties received in the local assistance and tribal consistency funds. Nationally, I think the expectations are that would add up to $15 million. They would capitalize that and use the dividends and the interest of that to run this program. and it would be designed to advance the needs of counties throughout with research and development. Mojave County's share of this, should the board elect to participate, would be 1% of what Mojave County received. So it would be $120,000 in total, invoiced by CSA over 2 years. The understanding would be that CSA would collect it from the various counties and then submit a payment to NACO and WIR over a 2-year period, and invoicing will take place through that approach. The idea is that counties will benefit from it. There's been discussions and questions during the LPC and the CSA Executive Board, and the counties are being asked for a response, and the response is really, at this point, is a commitment to participate or not. They're asking for a response by January 31st, so we wanted to bring it in front of you so we can respond. If the board elects to participate, the process will follow later as far as invoicing and payment. If the board chooses to not participate, then we wouldn't receive those invoices. I'm happy to answer any questions any board members may have on this.
Questions from the board? Supervisor Bishop.
So County Manager, this money is not coming out of our general fund. This is money that's coming into us and a small percentage of that. Is that correct?
Chairman Lingenfelter, Supervisor Bishop, the letter that we received from CSA specifically does say that this would be 1% of general fund equivalent to, or it would be general fund money equivalent to 1% of the local assistance and tribal consistency fund. I think it has to do with restriction of the fund itself that we received. So they're asking for general fund, but equivalent to 1% of what we received.
But it's not Mojave County taxpayer monies. It is?
It's general fund money.
A little confused by that, thank you. My thoughts on this is kind of what we learned from the INA designation for our Wallapai Valley Aquifer. We asked for that for 7-8 years, and until we had the data, our requests were just denied until we could prove what it was we were asking for. So I see this as collecting data for information regarding public lands available for when we need to make a request from the federal government. So I think that's very helpful. So I'm ready to listen to what other supervisors have to say.
Supervisor Angus.
Thank you. So the purpose of this center is to gather information. I think there are other organizations that I know that we were involved in since I've been on the board, 10, 12 years, the American Lands Council. They're still up and running. We chose not to be a part of them. Their fees were $5,000. Am I correct on that? There was $5,000 to renew our membership.
Supervisor Angus, that is my understanding as well.
And we chose not to do that. I'm on the fence about this, if I really thought that they could do something, but being part, in these NACO things, the people come and they go. I'm not so sure. Have we had any information if other counties in Arizona have approved to be a part of this? I think that would be helpful to know which of the other public land counties, like if Coconino or Yavapai have voted.
Chairman Lingenfelter, Supervisor Angus, I know a couple of the counties if I'm not mistaken, and please forgive me, I am going from memory, Navajo County and Gila County Board of Supervisors have already approved. I know multiple counties had it pending. This second Board of Supervisors meetings throughout the counties in Arizona. One or two counties have opted not to. And I'm remembering Yavapai County being one that has declined to participate. So
Coconino, do you know anything about Coconino?
I believe Coconino has not considered it yet, Supervisor. It is on their agenda for the upcoming board meeting for Coconino County.
Yeah, I'd like some more information before committing to this, honestly.
Supervisor Gould.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm not interested in spending $120,000 of taxpayer money on something that's going to give us dubious returns. I have no faith that NACO is going to change anything. This is effectively the property tax money of 50 households that we're going to spend on something that's probably not going to give us a return. The only thing I'd like to see from the federal government is the return of the state land to the state, which is what they did at statehood of every state before Nebraska. After that, they began to keep the land for themselves. I think that that's wrong, that land should be returned to the state, and then it would be placed in state hands or private hands where we would see tax revenue from that. I don't think this $120,000 is going to do that. And I have little faith that the federal government's going to give up control over anything that they have. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor. Supervisor Johnson, any comments on item number 38?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The only question I would have for the county manager is how many counties are involved in this that get the TANF funds?
Chairman Lingenfelter, Supervisor Johnson, I don't have a final number to you. As I indicated, I think at least the counties in overall, the states that have public lands are the ones that are being pursued or targeted, and I believe the total number of counties is 3,000 plus, but I truly do not have a tally of which counties have committed and which have not, because the January 31st deadline was given, and so I think other counties are doing what we're doing, taking it to their boards and consulting with them. I'm sure we will have a tally or a number after the January 31st, but that would be past the window that they've asked for a response by. They may extend the date, I don't really know, but I brought it to you, not as a recommendation, but to get direction and be in position to respond with a yes, our board has considered it and is willing to participate, or no, and that's why we're here. So I'm sorry, Supervisor Johnson, I don't know if I answered your question, but I don't have the info to do so.
Right, I was just curious how many counties were in the paying part. I think we have, 3,007 counties, somewhere around there, but not all of us are going to be paying for it. I was just curious if you had that number, how many people they have. That's all. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Any other comments from the board? Supervisor Bishop, were you looking to say something?
I think we need more information on this. If we could continue it until the next board meeting, and by then we should know where some of the other counties are and get a little more information. So I'll make that in the form of a motion.
I'll second that.
Did you have other discussion, Supervisor Angus? Did you?
I just wanted to comment. So there are 3,000 counties. That's a lot of money. I mean, 1% of general fund. I mean, what do they? I'd still like to know what they do. I mean, it just seems like another big bloated bureaucracy. And NACO, NACO has helped in some respects, but again, if we're going to really get involved, there are other, I think, organizations that might be better, but I agree. I'd like more information.
Yeah, I would too. I'd like to know if this is, with this data being collected, is that going to bring more money into the counties that participate? Will we be able to take this information, this data, and force the federal government to give us more PILT money? I don't know. Those are some of the questions that I have.
Thank you. Manager Elters, I had just a couple of questions before we take the vote. My first question is, and it was mentioned previously, what research services does the County Supervisors Association or some of the other current organizations that are focused on public lands, what do they offer us that, or what don't they offer us that we would get from this new group? Because I was under the impression that CSA, they do a lot of research on behalf of the Arizona counties when they're asked to.
Chairman Lingenfelter and Supervisors Angus and Bishop, my understanding is, and I'm going to try to answer like a couple of questions in the process related to the dollar amount. It is $15 million, and $15 million happens to be a 1% of the latest local assistance and tribal consistency fund. If you recall, $2 billion was set aside as part of overall ARPA. 1.5 billion went to public lands, counties, and the other 500 went to tribal assistance. So that's where the 15 million comes from. The idea again is to capitalize that amount and then so keep it in there and then work off the interest to sponsor this research. The vision is, and this is all, it's, if it was to be implemented, that's how they perceive proceeding, is to work with universities to have a governance board made up of NACO and WIR, and from the state county supervisors associations, and that they would do research related to, say, for example, fires in the west or southwest and flooding that ensues, and promote public lands, development of natural resources, to do partnerships that would perhaps reduce wildfire risks and develop energy and minerals and so on. At least that's what is being communicated with us, and that's the vision if this is to go forward.
Back to my question, doesn't CSA already do research for the counties in Arizona?
CSA does some research, Supervisor or Chairman, but and they will on behalf of a county reach out to and work with, say, an institution or a university. This is more of a national and regional, Chairman. Again, that's what is communicated with us, is that I don't know if all county supervisors associations throughout other states do what CSA in Arizona does, but this is the vision for it.
Yeah, I was worried about CSA. That's the organization that Mojave County is paying a membership fee, substantial membership fee to, and I thought that's what was a part of their duties. What we were getting as far as value that they were providing for us for our membership fee was research. But it brings me to my second point. So it's been mentioned a couple times. There's already over 3,100 counties in this country. Most of the public lands counties are in the west, but how do you get all of those counties that may participate aligned and on board with an agenda? Because we can't even get all the counties in Arizona to agree on everything. So I'm willing to listen. But I'm not convinced that Mojave County is really going to get a lot of value for participating on this. I mean, if you have a lot of organizations that are participating, you might fund something that the majority of members are supporting something that Mojave County is against. But we just don't know because we don't have that information. I know that there's been a motion to extend, to provide additional information. You mentioned the deadline that we have to respond by, the 31st. Our next meeting is in February. Is it going to be past that deadline, or do we have to have a vote on whether to participate today?
Chairman Linkenfelter and board members, I don't perceive it to be a hard deadline, and understanding that the overall approach is a voluntary participation. I think if the board chooses or elects to continue it and then to provide them an answer in February, that's what we'll do. And if they need an answer by the 31st, they can consider us declining. But if it's the board's wishes to continue it so we can see what other counties in Arizona decide, then that's what we'll do.
Well, as far as District 1 is involved, we have a lot of public lands, but I'm not convinced yet. So, Clerk, could you read the motion back, please?
The motion was to continue the item to the February 6th Board of Supervisors meeting.
That was seconded by you.
Mr. Chair.
Supervisor Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think part of the concern could be, and we could get additional information on this, is that if we're going to have a resource center back in D.C., which, you know, isn't a bad idea, public lands, we get close to $550 million in total in PILT payment. And so as time goes by, and we all know every year we just have to fight to get those PILT payments sent to us to take care of the federal lands that we have in our areas, and the education of those on the East Coast and in the central United States where they have no lands and can't understand, you know, why we need any money to protect these federal lands. They look at it more of as a park setting that instead of just wide open spaces that we have. So in that respect, I think we need to take a serious look if it means, you know, continuing our PILT payments. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I haven't been part of the WIR. Have you, Supervisor Bishop?
I have attended several of their meetings.
Isn't this kind of stuff done through them?
I think this is being done in partnership with them, and they're in support of it, of course. If it means protecting our public lands and being able to get more money to do that with, I think some of the other counties like Coconino and Yavapai County have a lot more public lands, a lot of public use of those lands because they have forest and
right, and they chose not to be involved. I don't know about Coconino, but Yavapai chose not to be
involved.
I
thought Coconino was, Patrice Horstman is in Coconino, and she said that her county will support this. And I'm surprised that Yavapai County has voted it down because they do have a lot of activity in their public lands. So that's why I wanted to continue just to see where other counties are going with the support.
You've heard that motion in second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes appear to have it. Do have it, so ordered. Item 39, Manager Elters.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and board members. This item was continued from the last board meeting. If you recall, I was on the agenda for a lease to Congressman Gosar. The approach to it was to lease. County Attorney's Office weighed in and recommended a certain direction. The board directed us to communicate with Congressman Gosar and work through those. We did reach out to Congressman Gosar, and we were informed that the congressman is no longer pursuing this lease, and have pulled it from the House Council consideration. So we believe it's a moot point. We won't be pursuing it. Thank you.
All All right, thank you, Manager Elters. No action is required on item 39. Item 40, Supervisor Angus.
Thank you. This is another ARPA distribution. I have one word, inflation. And with that, I make a motion to approve.
Second.
You've heard that motion in second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? You guys appear to have it. You do have it, so ordered. That was the last item on our agenda. Anything else from the board members for the good of the order? Hearing none.
I have
Sorry,
one.
Supervisor Bishop.
One item, I just wanted to let the public know that I just received an opening with the Public Health Committee. So if anybody's interested, contact my office.
Great, thank you. Hearing nothing else, the meeting is adjourned.